Hey all, it's that time of month again, the time when I put out my monthly top 5 A to Z list. For those of you not in the know, every month I'm putting out a top 5 or sometimes top 10 list, going one letter down the alphabet every month. This month is the letter D. So far, I've been talking about anime I like with these lists, but let's change that up for a bit. Today we are talking about disappointment, specifically my top 5 most disappointing sequels of anime. To preface this, I should tell you that I'm pretty easygoing about sequels. Obviously I love it and prefer it if a sequel is of the same caliber as the work I originally fell in love with, but that isn't a necessity for me to enjoy the sequel. You see, for me, since so many of the series I love never get any sort of sequel at all, it's enough to just be able to return to the characters and world that I loved so much, even if the plot isn't quite as strong. Even if it's more mundane, I like seeing those characters again. For instance, I actually like Psycho-Pass Season 2. Sure, it has problems. A lot of them. I totally acknowledge that. But it was nice to be back in that world and back with some of my favorite characters, and for me that was enough. So, with that out of the way, it should be pretty clear that I'm someone who's kind of hard to disappoint with these things. So let's talk about the shows that put in the extra effort and managed to disappoint me. Welcome one and all, I am Corey Understone, and let's get started with my runner-up. Utawaru Mono, The False Face. The original Utawaru Mono is not a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination. I'd give it a rating of just above average. But despite some of its many flaws, it has several strong characters who I quite loved, and asks some intriguing questions, and has some rather interesting plot twists. And so it's a show I genuinely enjoy, and I was really excited to find out that it was getting a sequel. I was looking forward to returning to the fantasy world it described, and I was looking forward to seeing what had happened to all of my favorite characters. However, I didn't make it even halfway through this nonsense. The beginning is slow and meandering as all hell, and I'm not even talking about the levels of slow that the original had. Yes, the couple of first episodes were a little boring, but in the original, despite being boring, they actually served a real purpose. They established Hakuro, his character, and some of the controversies around his character, as well as gave us a lot of world building and a sense for the characters of the other main cast members in the village. It was pretty easy to tell that what we were getting was all establishing material, and once we got past it around, episode 3 I believe, we moved into plot-heavy material and more action and just generally more interesting story. I don't remember exactly where I gave up on The False Face, but it was well past episode 3, and it was well before anything actually started to happen. Sure, we got introduced to a bunch of characters, but were they relevant? Who knows? Because we don't even know what the overarching plot is. All we do know is all the random side quests that our main character goes on. Blowed if we know what the main plot is, but sure, he can fix this water wheel and go on this date with this one girl, and this other girl who isn't even connected to the main group can read these magazines, and what the hell am I even watching? Part of it looks like something out of a dating sim, part of it looks like a bad RPG, and none of it looks entertaining. But you know what does look like? Fan service. Lots and lots of extra fan service, because that's how they try to make up for the lackluster presentation of, the entire rest of the story. And don't even get me started on the difference in Carla and her introduction and her character. Suffice it to say that the way this show handles its returning cast members, the thing that I was tuning in for, is what finally made me drop the damn show anyway. And one thing's for sure, I won't be picking it back up anytime soon. Number 5. Tokyo Ghoul Rude. This is one of those sequels that's pretty damn mandatory for a list like this, and there's a good reason for that. Okay, I will preface this by saying that Rude has some things that I enjoyed. It did. Some of the character beats were enjoyable. You know what wasn't? The fact that I had no idea what was going on half the time. The plot was all over the place, messed up, backward, and twisted around. Characters spent, no time on screen when they were important, and then the unimportant side characters, I guess that's what they were, got full episodes to develop. What? Who knows, because we never saw them again, like that whole prison breakout escapade, where the show spent so much time breaking someone out of prison even though we don't know who they are, why they should be broken out, and we never saw them again. What about those twins? I don't know what their deal is. Do you? No, because we never got back to them. etc., etc., etc. Oh, and don't even get me started on how disappointingly boring the OP was. Like, seriously? You couldn't even get that right? Next! Number 4. Tsubasa OVA 2 Spring Thunder. Ah, yes. This is the part where we throw the anime out the window and just appeal to the manga fans. Except, oh wait, they've read the manga, so still they want to see their favorite scenes animated? Fine. They want to see something a bit darker than what the light-hearted anime was going for? Fine. Tsubasa's a darker series. Let's get there. Oh wait, we could have done the dark scenes that follow right after the anime? Don't be silly! Haha, that would be too sensical. Why not instead skip way far ahead, get to some of the darkest scenes, and not even bother to fill in the gaps? Seriously, this OVA takes place volumes after the last OVA, after the last installment of the series, with nothing to fill in the gaps. The series treats you like you're supposed to know exactly what's going on, and even flashes back to scenes that you never saw because they were never animated. This is something that literally only works if you've read the manga, and even then, it doesn't really make much sense because it's so god out of context. Like, I don't get why they decided to make something that could not be accessed unless you've already read the source material. Is this supposed to be an advertisement for the source material? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. This OVA is beyond out of context, and I am beyond out of patience with it. So I'm going to move on. Although before I do, I have to say one thing, and that is that it does have one, at least, strong emotional beat in it, and it does have a really good opening that also pulls on the heartstrings. Just wish I knew what the context for those moments were. Bottom line, if you're adapting something, and the only market for what you're adapting is the people who are already fully familiar with the thing you're adapting, then maybe you should start wondering why you're even adapting it. And yes, I know the reason is to make money, but you might actually make just, a little more money if you appealed to, that whole other audience of anime watchers that you spent so long cultivating. Just a thought. Number 3. Darker Than Black, Gemini of the Meteor. Darker Than Black is, as far as I'm concerned, one of those series that never got a second season. But if it had, it would unfortunately have looked something like this. God, I wish this thing didn't exist. Gemini of the Meteor is what happens when the series writers go, hey, we had a pretty good thing going. We created this series that involved these supernatural elements that told an overarching narrative over the course of several short stories, and it involved a superpowered protagonist with not a whole lot of personality, but a general likable demeanor. What are we going to do with that if we want to make a sequel? Oh, I know. How about let's throw out the entire format structure, create a new main character, who to be fair isn't a bad character, but then take our old main character, who the fandom was nice and attached to, and turn him into a drunkard and a child abuser. Yeah, that's something people will love. I don't know which of our AI overlords thought this was a good plan. I don't know which one greenlit it, but congratulations. You have just come up with the worst plot idea since Vampire Knight, and you managed to trample all over an entire good series while doing it. Nicely done. Of course, this dumpster fire still doesn't undermine its first season anywhere near as badly as... Number 2. Black Butler Season 2. Another on the lists of sequels that might as well not exist, or rather, I wish did not exist. Fortunately, I could actually pretend that because even the canon pretends that when it adapted Book of Circus and Book of Murder, but anyway, the point is that Season 2 was technically animated and was definitely a mistake. Yes, the first season of Black Butler had an anime-only ending, and some of the things leading up to that ending were a little questionable, but the ending itself, while tragic, was fairly satisfying, completing the story of Sebastian and Ciel in a way that was very much final, and very much rounded out their story arcs. Then Season 2 happened, and oh well, we can't have that now, can we? It had to go and undermine literally everything in terms of the closure and overarching message that ending had, and instead throw in a whole bunch of shenanigans with a new couple of main characters. Main characters who are absolutely god-awful, some of the worst characters I've ever seen. Don't even get me started on that little brat, Aloise Trancy. And, of course, in the process of doing this, we have to throw out not only the ending, but also some of the laws and fundamental rules of this universe. Chief among them, the inabilities of demons to disobey their masters, which is kind of a big point considering that's a huge thing in the first series, and also something the second one both relies on and completely throws out the window every other minute. Ugh. Congratulations! You're making me want to go rewatch the second season of Darker Than Black now, because even that is going to make me happier, because hell, at least that one had a good main character. And speaking of, that's another thing they screwed up, Ciel. Ciel is one of my favorite things in the original series. He doesn't have anywhere near the bronze or ability to operate that Sebastian or even a normal grown-up would, so he relies entirely on his intellect. His intellect is what makes him fun, but instead of making him play off of Sebastian in this using each other way that the first series had, the second season throws that out the window, making him nothing more than a puppetish pawn and literally someone I couldn't care less about. But don't worry, it's okay. If you're missing having an emotional connection to Ciel, just spend some more time with Aloise Trancy. A few minutes watching him will remind you that there are worse character traits to have than boring and unemotional. Number 1. Drumroll please for the most disappointing sequel of all of anime. This isn't technically a sequel so much as a second incarnation of a series, sort of a second route to it, but it's also kind of a sequel, whatever. It qualifies, and it's certainly bad enough to be here. Number 1 goes to... Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, the movie. Not to be confused with the quite excellent UBW from Studio Ufotable, Studio Dean's adaptation was, well, okay. Rather than try to explain this to you in terms of plot context and character growth, let me just throw out some numbers. The Fate Stay Night anime are all adaptations of visual novels. These visual novels are about 60 hours or so in length. Both the original Dean's Day Night and the Ufotable Unlimited Blade Works are about 25 episodes long apiece, which makes them about, say 9 hours long. Already, a massive amount of editing needs to be done to turn about 60 hours of content into about 9 hours, but to be fair, there are a lot of fluff scenes and long drawn-out scenes that can be cut down, there's a lot of inner monologues that can be shortened through facial expressions and action shots, and of course it takes a lot longer to read something than it does to just hear characters say those words, so okay, yeah, that works. I would say that both Dean's Day Night and UBW are roughly the right length for the series they were adapting. Now, Dean's Day Night is not the only Studio Dean to Fate animation. This one, the one we're talking about, was their attempt to adapt the second round of the Fate visual novel. Not only does it suffer from all the myriad issues that Dean's Day Night suffered from, but it also suffers from one additional issue, and that is length. The UBW movie is 105 minutes long, or just under 2 hours. In other words, Studio Dean tried to take 60 hours of visual novel, or 9 hours of normal anime, and compact them all down into less than 2 hours. Can you see where that might be a little bit of a problem? Okay, yes, they cut a lot of things, but I mean, yeah, of course they cut a lot of things. It's literally impossible not to have cut things with that sort of length chop. I don't really need to tell you that, any more than I need to tell you that what they got was an atrocious mess. I could go further analyzing it, but I really don't feel like I have to. This should say everything it needs to. It's a movie that's boring for anyone who's already seen Fate Stay Night, since it recaps a lot of the same material, and confusing as hell for anyone not familiar with the franchise. It is a bad movie and a bad place to start and a bad thing to watch, and I just don't know why anyone would. Fortunately, there's only a fairly small gap in years where people would have to, because only a few years later, Ufotable put out their beautiful Unlimited Budget Works adaptation, and it became completely irrelevant, as it should be. So those were my top 5 most disappointing sequels of anime, but I'm curious curious, what sequels have disappointed you? What franchises have been ruined for you? If you want to see more of these top 5 lists, hop on over to my channel and check out letters A through C. If you like hearing me be negative for a change, I can assure you there's a lot more negativity where this came from, so please let me know down below. If you want to hear me say something positive about the Fate series, then consider checking out my review of Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel Presage Flower. And if you want to see some more of my anime A to Z lists as they come out, then please go ahead and subscribe. Also, other upcoming videos will definitely include a couple of videos on anime and disability, and the truly ungodly number of videos on the Legend of the Galactic Heroes. And until then, this is Coriander Stone, and I thank you for watching. L. Psi. Congru.